Vertigo Nation, what is up? Welcome back to another episode of Vertigo. I know I've been gone for about 3 weeks now, so thank you for hanging tight and waiting for the new season to kick off. I'm going to be honest, I don't have a guest today, so today you are getting a solo podcast from myself, and I'm going to kind of talk about where I've been the last couple of weeks. It started out honestly as a healthy break, just the Easter holiday was coming, and just wanted to take a break, and I didn't have any guests scheduled, especially because it was Easter weekend, and because of my work schedule. So I guess this is a good opportunity to kind of really introduce me as a whole. I mean, I know that people know me through Vertigo and probably have an idea of what it is that I do and who it is that I am, but I'm an IT specialist, and I work Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, and I work up in Fayetteville. And so my schedule gets a little crazy because I don't get home. It's about a 55-minute commute for me daily. So I don't get home until like 7 o'clock in the evening. And then, of course, by the time I get home, I want to spend time with Minna, my wife, and, Gia, my daughter, and just kind of do that whole thing. So it doesn't leave me a whole lot of time during the week, unfortunately, to schedule guests and kind of get things rolling for Vertigo. So it really leaves me to do that on the weekend, which is great. But since Vertigo is a hobby, and, this isn't me making a living at this, although that would be pretty incredible, I would say. The reality is that, weekends, especially as the weather is starting to warm up here in central New York, you get things that you got to do. And so, I appreciate everybody kind of hanging out and, waiting for the return, but, just kind of wanted to give a little bit of update too about, where I've been and what's been going on. So, that's kind of it. Like I said, my work schedule is kind of tedious, as it is for most of us, and so like the weekend comes, and this is my opportunity to kind of jump on the mic and do this thing. And with the holiday coming up, like I said, Easter was a couple of weeks back. This Sunday, when this drops, it will be Mother's Day. So we got those important holidays in there. To all the moms, thank you so much for the job that you do. Just want to say that. Minna, specifically, thank you for being an amazing mom to our kids, an amazing stepmom to our kids. You're a beautiful person. So, to all the moms, I hope you enjoy that day. So with that said, I kind of would like to say that that's the end of it, but then I would also kind of be lying to myself. And Vertigo is really about like getting honest, right? The conversations that we have on each episode are really about learning from one another. And, I got to say that, so at first I took a quick break because of that Easter holiday, and that was all well and good. And my birthday was in there too, actually. So, then my birthday came after the Easter holiday, and so, that was another break. And then came the third break, and that was really more of where I had to get honest and say, part of this is a mental health thing for me. I, obviously am very involved in wanting to talk about mental health, and not just necessarily like mental health issues in the negative, but just bringing awareness and light to the things that we all struggle with. We all have struggles in life, and one of the things that I like to talk about is where those struggles are, and then what people's opinions are, and how do they get through them. That's also important. Like, what is it about those struggles that also motivates you to keep moving forward, putting one foot in front of the other, and that can be really difficult. And for me, I hit a wall. So, I tend to be one of these people who really strives to be an overachiever. And because of that, I take on a lot more responsibility than maybe I need to. And then also kind of what happens from there is I burn myself out. And Vertigo, as much as it's a hobby and as much as it's something that I enjoy doing, it also falls into the category of I try to bite off more than maybe I can chew. And then that leads to this whole cycle of anxiety, and then it kind of gets into a depression in a sense, I guess. I don't know if it's depression in the true sense of people who suffer with depression, but you crash, you burn out. And that's what makes it really difficult, right? And that kind of started to happen with me with vertigo is, I hit the ground running. The support was amazing, especially for my boys, Zach, Sean, Maddox, and Minna too. But really, what had happened was Sean had started Maple Talks, and I was really proud of that and really, behind him. And then he invited me on an episode of Maple Talks. And in doing Maple Talks, I realized how much I missed doing podcasting, because as you've heard me talk in prior episodes, I had done, On the Rocks was the first podcast that I developed with a very good friend of mine, Matthew, who I am going to try and get on the show at some point. Our schedules just haven't aligned. But, I started On the Rocks and I had a lot of fun doing it. And that's what, we recorded it from my shed out in the backyard. Ironically, we started doing it in like November, December. I don't know what the hell we were thinking, because we would sit out there with a space heater. We would literally go out in the shed with Carhartts on and like the jumpsuits, having a heater blowing on our feet to try to keep our feet from, freezing as we're sitting there, sharing in stories and cigars and whiskey. And it was a good time. And that's kind of what started it. So then what happened is Sean and Zach got interested, and I'm a little under the weather, so I'm going to take a sip of tea here. I made some tea and honey and with lemon, so I'm not hacking all over the microphone here. So hold on, please. All right, and apparently I didn't put enough rinse through the coffee maker. I used the Keurig for the hot water. Rinsed it with some vinegar this morning and probably need to run a little more water through it. Holy, okay. Anyway, so with On the Rocks, and then, Sean and Zach started, messing around with podcasting as a hobby as well. And then fast forward, Shawnee, develops Maple Talks. And so he invites me on Maple Talks. And in doing that, I realized, gosh, I really just miss doing the podcasting. And then it wasn't too long after that episode dropped with Sean that Zach had texted me and said, hey, what about Vertigo? What's going on with Vertigo? What are you doing with Vertigo? You shelved it after On the Rocks and never did anything with it. So, what are we doing? And so he really got me motivated, hence the pilot episode with my boy Zach. And, really got the ball rolling for Vertigo. And so needless to say, I hit the ground running. And I've had nothing but fun and enjoying the experience. And then I really got focused on growing this thing. Like, I really decided that I needed to go for it. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to allow you into the mind of Sean for the next, however long we let this roll. I have been one of those people who have a lot of passions and a lot of hobbies. And I'll hit those passions, those hobbies hard, and then burn out and put them away, and then often will never revisit them again. And this has been a trend in my life. Now, I have always been a fanatic for music, which, by the way, Andy Carter and I did a podcast on music, actually discussing it, and I was a little disappointed, although I kind of surmised that it might happen. Spotify took it down and froze my account, so I had to take it down because in there were songs that were from other artists. Now, even though my podcast Vertigo does not monetize, I make no money doing this. Excuse me, I make no money doing this. But because I had other artists' music in there, and it got taken down. So I apologize for that. And that's what happened to that episode, if anybody saw it and then didn't get a chance to listen. I'm going to try to figure out a way that I can get it back up again, but it's probably not going to happen for a little while. So, Andy, shout out to you for recording that episode, and sorry, buddy, that it got taken down. But anyway, love music, right? And all my life, I just wanted to play music and wanted to be a musician. And of course, we know how difficult that can be. Not everybody obviously makes it as a musician, but, I realized as I got older that I probably could have done it in some capacity. But, my mental health is really a big part of the blockade. And I didn't really start realizing this until probably my 40s, man, that like I put up so many roadblocks and I self-sabotage so badly. And what tends to happen is I start to develop a thing and people start to, get interested in it. And then all of a sudden I freak and I hide. And I think that kind of happened with vertigo too, which is leading me to this episode today. I hit the ground running with vertigo, and people really were enjoying it and are enjoying it. And I think that I just felt like, my God, I can't live up to these standards that I'm setting, and really just kind of freaked out about it, and then withdrew and went into hiding. And in doing that, I've realized that this has been a trend in my life, that I get into these hobbies and I start doing well with it. And then for some reason, I just cannot accept the fact that maybe I'm doing good with it, and that feels so odd. And then I just like have to throw it away and not do it and hide for a little while. A recent example of that would be I got into beer making. I guess it's been a little while now, but Minna went out and bought me all this stuff to do home brewing, and it became more than a hobby. It became an obsession, really. I would say it was probably during the height of the craft beer market. And so, of course, that's there. And I thought, like, I bet, I can do this. Started researching, and started out just simple, doing recipes, simple recipe kits that you can get at any homebrew store. I would go to Ontario Orchards in Oswego, so shout out to Ontario Orchards, and, buy recipe kits. Yeah, which already come with like the malt syrup and so forth, and you just boil it, put it together. I mean, and then it got really interesting, and so how does a real, quote unquote, how does a real brewer do this, right? Oh, I need a mash tun, I need this, I need that, and I get into it way hard, and I start building a mash tun and doing all this stuff, and people start taking an interest. At that point, we were camping, I remember, at Brennan's Beach, and I was making these home brews, and I remember people saying to me, like, God, John, this beer's really good, and then as much as I'm proud of that, I also freak for some reason about that. And then it's like, I think two things happen. One, the acknowledgement that I'm doing something that I enjoy, and people also are enjoying it for some reason, freaks me out. And then part two of that is that I also burn myself out, and I end up coming up from air and going like, where have the weeks, days, weeks, months gone? It's like I've almost been in this vacuum where I don't realize that life is happening around me. And all of a sudden, I just come up for air and I go, oh, shit. And then I think the other part of that is, and all of a sudden I lose interest. And then I find it really hard to get motivated to restart. So I get freaked out by the accolades, and also burn myself out a little bit because I hit the ground running so hard with it. And so that transpired to vertigo. So as I was gone for these couple of weeks, I started thinking about that pattern in my life. And I really said, I think it's time to get honest. And I think that the next episode that I do of Vertigo, I need to crack the mic and I need to really talk about this and flush this out for myself, and also for other people who probably struggle and do the same thing. And so, ironically, my sister Kelly, who was going to be coming back on the podcast, but her and I did an episode, and her and I had such a great time doing it that we have been talking about doing another episode. And in doing that, she disclosed to me that, she was recently diagnosed with adult ADHD. And I didn't know much about that. I mean, to me, ADHD is a thing that, kids who can't sit still and fidget, And what I started to realize in talking with her was that, it isn't just that. It's really a giant misconception. Sure, the hyperactivity can be a part of it, but there is a bigger mental health component to it than I had realized. Now, I've never seen a doctor and talked about specifically ADHD, so I want to be very clear. And I also want to say that I think it's dangerous to self-diagnose, but I think that doing some research and trying to understand yourself is incredibly healthy and rewarding. So I have been, to counselors on and off since my 20s. I have been diagnosed with OCD. I had been diagnosed with PTSD, and I had seen counselors, therapists for that. And I definitely think that at least with the PTSD, that was a more recent thing. Someday I'll probably get on the mic and maybe talk a little bit about that specifically. It's not going to be this episode. I really got to prep myself for that one. But we'll bring it up, so, and anybody who's listening to this, you can check me on that. I will at some point talk in depth about my PTSD, but I'm not ready yet. So anyway, the OCD is where I really wanted to go with this. And, I started to realize that there are a lot of comparisons in symptoms of OCD and adult ADHD. And so that led me on this rabbit hole to kind of really look into this. And to be honest with you, prep myself I probably should at least begin a conversation with my primary doctor about it as well and ask some questions, because I think that's what's healthy about being able to do the research. Again, I'm not a believer in self-diagnosis per se, but I do believe that it can help us understand, ourselves better, and also help us kind of put words to some things that then we can turn around and sit and talk with a doctor, therapist, whomever about, Again, I apologize. I'm going to cough because fighting off a cold or whatever here. And so again, I apologize for that. It's easier to hide when a guest is here because I can kind of turn away from the mic and cough into the soundproofing walls when there's nobody here to kind of talk as I'm doing my coughing fit. I can't really hide it too well. That's good vinegar tea. Anyway, so it really led me down this rabbit hole to start really researching and just thinking about what the patterns of my life and what I go through. And not only did I think about it in Virgo, because again, I've had the last 3 weeks off and have had a tough time kind of getting started again to get this rolling, but I started thinking about work and how things get impacted at work. Now, I do IT, and it's a fairly new career path for me. I was a union drywall finisher painter. I've worked in the oil field, so I've had some physically laborious jobs. So IT is fairly new, and I really got into IT because I had just wrecked, my body. I had some injuries and things, and it was just, I really started to think I don't know if I can, do the physical labor. I had gotten into the union later in life. I was in my 30s when I joined the painters union. So just some things like that where I just needed a job where I thought I want to be in it for the long haul and not be, 50, 60 years old and not be able to run around and play with my grandkids. And, it just, I already kind of have the snap, crackle, pops, when I get out of bed just already. So I wanted to kind of slow that progression down if I could. So anyway, I got into IT kind of late. And I really enjoy it. However, I began to notice that I started again getting in my own way. Because I started in that field later in life, now when I say later in life, I want to say late 30s, maybe early 40s, probably realistically early 40s, I think, because I'm 49 now. And it's been, I would say right around 40 actually, because I've probably been doing IT for almost 10 years. And so that would make sense. So anyway, I really noticed that there's these thoughts that I call the sneaky thoughts. They sneak in. When I'm working with peers who are usually, 10 to 20 years younger than me, and they went to school for IT. I did do some credentialing. I did a Google course, and I went back to school. I had gotten hurt in the union and was out on comp, and was able to go back to school. So I went to school for business and did a 2-year degree for business, and minored in information technology. Or at least I guess you could say minored, took IT courses because, it just was an easy fit with business. And anyway, I, thought to myself, man, I really like IT. Like, I actually really like the field. And so I had the opportunity to break into the IT field and did it and took the leap. And then began to have these like little sneaky thoughts that come in, like, you're really not good enough to be doing this, dude. You don't have the knowledge that, Jimmy sitting next to you has, or, Bobby, on the other side of you has, or your IT manager has, these thoughts that just want to knock you down, right? Like, you're not really good enough to be doing this, or you're a fake, or you're a fraud. Those are probably the two biggest thoughts that sneak in, excuse me. You're a fake, you're a fraud, you shouldn't be doing this kind of thing. And those are really damning thoughts, right? Because then all of a sudden you start doubting your abilities. And like, I have to say, and this also feels so foreign, and I can't believe that I'm saying this out loud on a mic where people are going to listen to it, but I'm pretty damn good at doing IT. I really am. I just don't give myself the credit that I'm pretty damn good at it. And yeah, sure, I don't have the knowledge base that maybe, some of my peers have, but I also am very capable, but I don't allow myself to think that way. And so that's really the difficulty, right? I don't allow myself to really have this thought of, you can be successful. You have the ability, drive to do this. And you do have the knowledge. I've been doing this for almost 10 years. I've learned something, but the self-doubt can be so damning. And it's crazy to me how that doubt can sneak in, and how that doubt can take away all of the years of experience and knowledge. Because it does it in the form of anxiety. All of a sudden I start getting anxious, the palms start, right? Because you're put on the spot. So here's what happens, right? In my day-to-day job, a ticket comes in. Now, tickets don't bother me so bad because I can read the ticket and I can kind of prep myself for the work that I'm about to do, which is why I like IT. I get the ticket, I read through the ticket, and if I'm not 100% sure on what I'm going to do, I can either ask a peer or Google it, right? Googling is actually a big thing in IT. You can kind of Google, like, how have other people dealt with this? Let me see, and you can do that. Excuse me again. I'm sorry. And that might happen a few times during the episode, or it might not. I don't know. I'm just battling a stupid cold. And anyway, so, tickets come in. Tickets are not bad, right? Here's where I start to freak a little bit. My boss will look at me and say, hey, I need you to go out to, ABC company. They're having a network issue. Troubleshoot it and see what you can do to fix it. And if you need help, let me know. And that's when the anxiety starts to creep for me, because it's like, well, what's the problem? I don't know. They just called and said they had a network issue. Well, what do you mean? Is the internet down? I don't know. That's why I'm sending you out there. And inside my head, I'm going, fuck, I don't know. Shit. But here's the truth of the matter is, troubleshooting is troubleshooting, right? I had a boss that told me that, and I never really understood what he was telling me until pretty recent. But he's like, if you know how to troubleshoot, then you can troubleshoot any issue. Now, that doesn't mean that you know how to fix it, but at least you're going to diagnose the problem. Fixing it can only come after that. And maybe you don't know how to fix it, or maybe you can't fix it. Maybe you have to call somebody in to fix it because it's not anything that you can do. But you know what? Troubleshooting is troubleshooting. And even though I have done that hundreds of times throughout my career, it still freaks me out, because it's like, I don't know what's about to happen. I don't know what's in front of me. That unknown And what if I can't fix it? Creates such a damning anxiety. It shuts me down. It shuts me down. And that's the truth. So I realize that whatever this thing is that has also impacted my hobbies is also impacting me, career-wise. Now, I'm not at risk of getting fired, anything like that. So, I don't want to create any concern. I'm just saying that I'm starting to realize how this impacts me as an adult. And also, I think for the first time being really candid about it, because I don't tell my boss that these are the thoughts that are racing inside of my head, because why would I admit that? I need to look like a superstar to him. And so, yeah, it just creates, again, I guess the only way I can say it just creates this ultra anxiety. And then the self-doubt and all of that negative self-talk that I talk about on, with friends, peers on the show, the negative self-talk. You can't do this. You shouldn't be doing this. You don't have the knowledge base to do this. You don't have the, whatever. And all of that is bullshit, to be honest with you, because I've put 10 years of work into this field and you know what? I do know how to troubleshoot. I can sit here right now, as calm as can be on this mic, and tell you every step to troubleshooting a network issue, every step to troubleshooting, I can't get my email to open issue, whatever the fuck, right? But in the moment, the pressure seems so great that I literally shut down and have an anxiety attack. And so what happens as you do this over and over and over and over again, it gets to a point of burnout. And that's kind of what happens. So anyway, in my research, and as I was telling you, so that, my sister Kelly and I were talking about this, and it also led to a very healthy conversation with my son Maddox as well about this. And I really started to kind of dive down and look at, because I've always been told it's OCD. And I don't necessarily disbelieve that I have some OCD. But I found this chart about the ADHD burnout cycle. I found this just, simple Google. This came from the University of St. Augustine. And so fairly reputable, right? I don't know much about the University of St. Augustine. I should probably dive down a little bit. But, but anyway, the first thing is responsibility. And then, again, this is the cycle of ADHD burnout. And now, again, I'm not saying that I haven't been professionally diagnosed, but I find this interesting and I just want to share it. So responsibility, a task like studying for an exam requires focus and effort, right? Or I'm going to bring it back to work, right? Sean, you're tasked with today going out to company ABC and finding out what the network issue is, right? There's the responsibility. I have to go take care of this issue. I have to troubleshoot this issue. Okay. Number 2 in the cycle is system interference. ADHD symptoms make it hard to stay on task, leading to distraction and poor time management, right? So it can be increased anxiety. It can be, difficulty focusing. For example, I had a conversation again with my boss in diagnosing a network, and we were talking about modems and routers, and believe it or not, they are 2 different pieces of equipment. Now, they can be the same when you get them from your, cable provider. Oftentimes when you receive a piece of equipment from Spectrum per se, the modem and router can be, one box. In a professional world with networking, it's often 2 pieces of equipment. You have your modem, which hands off the internet, and then you have your router or your firewall, okay, which is a separate piece of equipment. It's usually what they call a security appliance. And I'm not going to bore you with tech talk, but just to give you a simple kind of scenario here, right? And so anyway, you begin to lose focus on what you're doing, right? I'm here to look at the router, I'm here to look at the modem, but quickly get wound up. Let me think of a better example, actually. Okay, this just happened. So I'm at work. Somebody's having problems with their email sign-in, okay? Which is usually a pretty simple fix. And so here I am, I'm focused on getting their email fixed so that they can get signed back into their email. And all of a sudden, now I'm the professional, right? So I have the knowledge base to fix this. However, I allow the customer to distract me, saying, well, I'm also having this other issue, which may or may not be impacting the email sign-in. But they're like, well, I'm having this other issue too, where, I can't get Dropbox to work. And then I easily get distracted by that. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, even though it's like, okay, hold on, let's fix the email issue first, and then I'll help you with Dropbox. I get completely off and like, well, maybe it's somehow related, right? And I just end up going down this rabbit hole and allowing the customer to basically then take the lead of the conversation when I am the professional and need to say, hey, whoa, right? ADHD at its finest, because I allow myself to get wrapped up and or distracted. Or just the fact that I could be sitting there trying to sign in to, somebody's email, but at the same time, a really, a blue car drove by and I can't stop now thinking about the blue car. I don't know why, right? It's a fucking blue car. I see a million of blue cars driving to work every day, but the blue car that just happened to drive into the parking lot for some reason has piqued my interest, and now I'm forgetting that I'm supposed to be fixing the email because I'm wondering, why is the blue car not parking in that parking spot? Because that parking spot's open. Why are they driving around? It's bizarre. But anyway, can't stay on task. So, which leads to increased stress, because anxiety builds as you struggle to stay on track, right? Because I know I've got the customer on the other line who's waiting for me to fix their email, yet I have become distracted by the blue car that is now in the parking lot and the fact that their Dropbox isn't working, and I can't seem to figure out which thing I need to be focused on first. I need to forget about the blue car because it's not even relevant to what's going on right now. However, I've got the customer telling me about their Dropbox, but their initial issue was their email, and my mind cannot separate the three things. I am at this point just in an anxiety-ridden state. It's the only way that I can think to kind of really talk about it. And I'm sitting there going, I don't think I can do this. I don't know that I can do this. I don't know how to fix this. I don't know what's going on. Yes, you do, Sean. You know exactly what to do. However, you've allowed yourself to get so goddamn distracted that you have forgotten where you are in the troubleshooting, steps. That's really what's going on here. So anyway, so number 3, increased stress. Anxiety builds because you're struggling. And I'm not struggling with the fact of not knowing how to fix it. I'm struggling with the fact that there are now 6 different things going through my mind, soon to be 7, 8, 9, and 10, and I can't pull myself together, right? Which leads to number 4, unhealthy coping. Procrastinating and avoidance temporarily eases the stress, but makes the task that much harder. Of course, right? So here's what ends up happening. All right, I'm on the phone with a customer email, and I say, you know what? I'm gonna hang up and get back to your issue in just a few minutes. Whatever. I need to just hang up and take care of something quick, or whatever, right? So whatever. I'll get back to you, kind of thing. And then it's like you take a minute, maybe go to the bathroom, maybe grab a cup of coffee or whatever. And then, okay, I've got to call customer A back about their email issue. And automatically that creates stress and anxiety because I didn't take care of it when I should have taken care of it, but I couldn't take care of it then because these creeping thoughts had distracted me to the point where I had lost complete focus, and then I needed a minute to step away and go, holy shit, right? So this is how this is. So this is why this has all made sense to me, and I'm going to tie it back to vertigo in a minute. But anyway, unhealthy coping, right? Procrastination. I am a huge procrastinator and have been for a majority of my life. And the reason that I procrastinate, and have never told a single living soul this, the reason that I procrastinate 9 times out of 10 is not because I don't want to get the job done. It's because the thought and anxiety of what it takes to get the job done is so overwhelming that I shut down. That's the truth. So then what happens is you just give up. You just give up. The pressure becomes so much that you just quit or you skip the task altogether. Now, that doesn't work in a professional setting because I'm getting paid to complete these tasks. But at the same time, the task becomes so difficult to complete that it takes such an emotional toll that it's exhausting, right? And so it becomes so exhausting, in fact, that you end up like I am right now, sick, not feeling well. And those very well could be true physical symptoms. I could truly be sick, and I believe that I truly am. But I believe it's because I have wore my system out because I'm worrying, anxious, and all this other shit, right? So it's just crazy. So anyway, giving up and then overcommitting is also in there, right? Because you feel guilty, right? Which is huge. I've talked a lot about that on the show. Guilt that is not mine to own, right? But it fuels that cycle of stress, anxiety, and it all becomes overwhelming, and then you just burn out. And then for me, what I do is I hide. I just hide because I cannot take it, So vertigo is something that is enjoyable. It's not work. I do this because I enjoy it. And yet, something that I enjoy, I still allow to become so overwhelming, right, that I need to hide. Now, going back to the original conversation where I talked about also the kudos, right? I really do struggle with people saying, man, I'm listening to Vertigo. Strangers, not even family and friends, right? Because family and friends, it's like, yeah, of course you're listening, right? And I appreciate the listens from family and friends, so don't take that the wrong way. But it's like, of course you're going to tell me you like it. Of course you are, because that's what family and friends do, right? And I'm only half serious about that. But, it's when people that you don't know come up to you and say, man, I was listening to Virgo, and it's like, shit, I'm not an expert on this stuff. Maybe I don't have a place talking about this. Maybe I shouldn't. I'm not a mental health counselor. I'm not this. I'm not that. Whoa. I just enjoy conversation. I enjoy learning about people. I enjoy people having the opportunity to have a voice. I enjoy the fact that people can come on here and it's freeing for them to be able to talk. So that's really I don't need to be an expert in anything. We're just talking, and yet it becomes overwhelming, and yet it freaks me out, and yet I go and I hide. And so this episode today that you're listening to is me saying, I'm not going to hide. This is me saying, all right, everybody that listens, I'm going to be honest with you and tell you where my struggles are. And then that way, when all of a sudden you don't hear an episode in a couple of weeks, you can go, hey, Sean, what the hell is going on, man? You need to get back on the mic. You need to get talking again. And that, I guess, is the challenge that I'm putting out there to listeners. Because, again, this is about lifting one another up, right? That's really what I see this vision as. This is the opportunity for us to lift one another up and support one another in whatever trials, tribulations we're going through. And yeah, I guess that's that. So anyway, that's my kind of story on where I've been, and what's kind of been going on, for me. And, I want to also say I really appreciate all the support that I've been getting through Vertigo. And so we're going to let this episode kind of be the kickoff of season 2. And we're going to be continuing to have some great discussions and phenomenal guests on the show. And we're just going to continue rolling it out, and that's what we're going to do. So with that being said, I'm going to be honest about all the stuff that I just talked about too. I have no idea how to really overcome it. I'm not one to really believe in taking a magic pill. I don't know. I think one of the reasons that scares me in talking with, doctors specifically or whatnot, is this fear of you're just going to prescribe me something. And I don't necessarily want to be prescribed a medication. I just want to be able to know how to cope with this at best. And I think, of course, talking to a professional is extremely helpful. But I think also doing this is extremely helpful, where I can say, I'm fucking struggling, man. And I know it's not going to last forever. And in a way, even just coming on the mic and doing this has already kind of lifted my spirits a little bit to say, like, you're calling yourself out, and so, yeah. So I don't want to ramble. That's definitely not what I want to do on this episode. So, yeah, so I just appreciate the listening. And a couple of things while I've been gone. So let's see. We had Easter in there, so I hope everybody enjoyed the Easter holiday. Hope you had some fun, got to spend some time maybe with family, friends, loved ones, kin, whichever. Also, I had a birthday. I celebrated my 49th birthday in the time that I have been gone. And so, not too much. I got to be honest. Birthdays don't really, I'm at that age now where it's like, yeah, I'm glad to be going and taking another trip around the sun. But at the same time, I'm not, I don't get overly excited about birthdays. However, Minna and I also just celebrated our 14th wedding anniversary, and that breath that you just heard in the mic was not me. I've got my lab with me today, Indy, because she is such an amazing emotional support companion. She's been sitting here with her head on my lap as I've been talking, so she just decided to get in my face for a minute and breathe into the microphone to let everybody know that she is here as well. So yeah, this is Indy, I guess, is the true guest today. Oh, girl. But Minna and I got to celebrate our 14th wedding anniversary. So that's really exciting, the fact that celebrating those milestones. I absolutely love, just, I don't know. I just love this phase in life that I'm at right now. Yeah, so that's all I can say. But anyway, to Minna, it's been an incredible journey. We've been through so much in 14 years. And I just can't wait for the next 14, to be honest with you. And I don't just say that. Like, I really just am enjoying my life, enjoying being a father, enjoying being a grandparent, enjoying being a husband, enjoying being a member of this community. Yeah, so there's a lot of good to celebrate. And so I really want to focus on that too. So I just want to say thank you to everybody for your support. Minna, thank you so much for the love and support that you have given me. To my kids, thank you for coming on the show and being part of this with me. I hope y'all come back. I want y'all on the show again. We've got so many conversations to continue to be had. And yeah, so this is my explanation of where I've been, and also just my shout out and thank you to all of the people who have been supporting me, whether it's been for months, days, years. I truly just want to let y'all know. And again, Minna, 14 years, holy shit, thank you so much for that too. Yeah. So stay tuned. More Vertigo episodes will be coming. Like I said, this is the first. I guess we're going to kick off season 2. I don't really believe in the whole season thing of podcasts, but considering that we had a little bit of a break, I guess we can call it technically like, okay, this is a restart. We did season 1, and now we're heading into season 2. So before I end this thing, if you are interested in being a guest on the show, you could hit me up at vertigopod@gmail.com. Again, that's vertigopod@gmail.com. So if you're interested in being a guest, you can absolutely email me there. There's no requirement to coming on the show at all. You don't have to have like some story or whatever. If you just are interested in podcasting and conversating or whatever, hit me up. You can also find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram. You can see videos of episodes on TikTok. I am going to try to be a little bit better about posting on TikTok. Excuse me. I am going to try to do a little bit better posting actual clips, of podcasting guests. So that's one of the things that I am going to try to do better, is getting clips out there of podcasts for TikTok. But definitely hit me up. And like I said, always looking for guests. I love, again, sitting across the table and conversating. So if you've got a topic or an idea for a show, again, email me, hit me up, message me, whatever you got to do. Let me know that you're interested. And Vertigo Nation, thank you so much for your love and your support. Keep listening. I promise I will be here and will not disappoint. And as always, Vertigo is here to keep your head spinning. Take care and love one another.